Hey Sparkle Squad, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Jasmine and welcome to my channel. Today's video, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to do a double Lutz in figure skating. So this is basically one of the last doubles that you will ever learn in figure skating because all of the jumps go axel, double side, double toe, double loop, double flip, and double Lutz is finally the last one. Sometimes you'll learn it out of order, but double Lutz for a lot of people is also one of the hardest because it requires for you to have a nice and crisp outside edge, or else you're going to get an edge call on it whenever you compete, and that's something that we don't want, and we don't want to do an inside edge on our Lutz because then it'll be a flutz and it'll be a flip Lutz. So today I'm going to be giving you guys tips and tricks on how to get your double Lutz in figure skating, and I'm also going to give you guys some tips and tricks on how you can work on getting a better outside edge going into your double Lutz. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so before we get started with how to do our double Lutz, one of the required jumps that you need to have before you start is a double loop, and this is the same thing as your double flip. So as I already mentioned that in the double flip video, I already mentioned this because a double loop and a double flip and a double Lutz are all loop jumps or triples or whatever, but flip, loop, and Lutz are all loop jumps. So one of the required elements that you have to have is a double loop because it's the same transfer of weight and it's going to be the same rotation transferring up into the air to be able to get up into the Lutz. So you want to make sure that you have a nice solid double loop before you get started with doing your double Lutz. So one of the most important things that I've already mentioned on a double Lutz is a nice outside edge. So this is what basically differentiates double flips from double Lutzes, because on a double flip, when you pick, you have an inside edge, and that edge is what guides you up into the air. But on a double Lutz, you have to have a outside edge, and you're kind of almost pigeon-toed before you go up into the air like this, and then you have that flick going up into the Lutz, which is what makes it different from doing a double flip. So you can either do this standing on the boards if you need some more support at first, but you're going to stand in this position just like this, how you would normally pick for either your single Lutz or your single flip or whatever, so, or double flip. So we're here in this position. So since I'm a righty, I have my right foot behind me and it's picked into the ice just like this, and I have my left foot in front and it's bent a little bit, and then I'm going to have my left arm in front and my right arm more behind me. So I already mentioned this on double flip, but it's basically a similar process. So once we're here in this position, this arm is going to help come all the way through, and this is what's going to help us get all the way up into the air. So as this one goes down and pulls in, this arm is going to come all the way through behind us. So with our foot, once we're right here, we're going to make an outside edge and get into that position. So you just want to go here and work on that flick. So I don't know if you guys are able to hear from my microphone up here, but once I actually do this, you're here, you go on an inside edge, and it flicks. So you want to make sure that you have that flick sound. And if you look at the ice, it's going to create kind of like a triangle shape, and it's going to look like it went off, like your toe pick went off. So we're here, and you're going to flick all the way up. So you're here, this arm comes through, and you're going to make that flick. So I recommend just working on this. So even if you do have your double Lutz already or triple Lutz or whatever, but if you're really struggling with getting that edge on your Lutz, this is a great exercise because it gets you more used to and comfortable with doing this outside edge going up into the air. So we're just going to work on that until we're comfortable with doing it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that same position that we were just doing. So right here, this exercise, we're going to go here, flick up, and then we're going to pull into a back scratch position. So after we do that, once we're in the back scratch, we're going to back scratch, back scratch, back scratch, and then we're going to jump up into a single loop. So this is just basically going to get us used to going from this flick position to a tight rotating position and then into our checkout. So when you're doing the single loop, you really want to make sure that you have a nice eagle coming out, just like how you would want to try to have on your double Lutz. So right here, I'm going to pick right behind me, just like this. I'm going to bring this arm through, foot, and then I'm going to scratch, and I'm going to do my jump. So we're going to work on that just to get used to that motion of pulling your foot in and getting into the rotating position. So you really want to make sure that your arm that's in front, so it's my left arm in front because it's the same arm as the leg that's in front, is going to come all the way through, and this is what's going to help us. And I also already mentioned this on double flip, but one of the main things that my coach has taught me is whenever you're doing jumps with your toe in front of you in like on the takeoff, you want to make sure that your toe is always pointed upwards, because that's where you want your jump to go. You want it to go up, and you don't want your toe pointed downwards, because one, you can't get the 4 that you want, you can't get the 8, you can't get it as high as you want, and also your jump is going to be headed downwards. So you want to make sure that once you get through, your toe is really pointed upwards. So right here, and this arm is going to come through, and back scratch, single loop, just like that. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same exercise that I gave you guys for double flip. So what we're going to do is we're here, we're going to pick behind, we're going to come through with this flick, and then we're going to go down into our double loop. So what I want you guys to kind of do is I want you to do the flick. So once we're here, we're going to flick up, and then we're going to turn around backwards with both feet on the ice, and then we're going to go up into our double loop. So it's a little bit different than what we did for double flip, because here we were here and then we just dropped down into our double loop. But what we're going to do is we're going to be here. So we're going to flick all the way through, drop down, and we're going to go into our double loop so that we just feel that rotation or that flick, and also the come through of the arms. So I'm going to get some speed going into it. You guys can try it either from standstill, or if you want to try and go for it with a little bit more speed, it's going to make it a little bit easier, because once you're here and you flick up, then you'll have a little bit more speed going into the double loop, which is going to be more realistic to what it's going to feel like once you actually do your double lutz, because it's really, really hard to do a double lutz from standstill. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a couple of pushes forwards, and then I'm going to turn around backwards, and I'm going to go into it. So I'm going to show you guys what that should look like. All right. So your main focus here is you want to make sure that you feel that flick of your toe pick. You want to hear this sound when you go into it, and you also want to make sure that once you're picking to go up into the air, you're bringing your arm all the way through and then setting up to go into your double loop. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a double lutz bell jump. So I've been making you guys do bell jumps for all the doubles I've been teaching you guys, but basically what it is it helps you feel the rotation, or doing a little bit extra rotation before you go straight into doing the full double rotation. So once we're here, we're going to make sure that we pick, and we're going to go up into the rotation just like we would a single, but we're going to add a whole half a rotation to it, and we're going to land forwards, gliding on 2 feet. And this is just going to help us feel that rotation. It's going to help us feel going up into the air a little bit more, and it's going to help us feel that like this edge. You want to really make sure that you push super hard on this edge so that you're able to go all the way up. And then you want to make sure that you pull in, and you're going to try and land forward so that you have a half extra rotation than a single. And what we're going to work on is we're going to do that. You guys can either try it from standstill or from a little bit of speed. I feel like doing it from speed is a little bit easier, because doing a double lutz from standstill is very, very hard, especially because you have to use the edge. So I would recommend adding a couple of pushes before you go into it, just to see if you're able to do it. And you want to make sure that you're here. The main focus here is the edge, and then the arm coming all the way through, going up into the air, and then landing on 2 feet, gliding forward. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like. So now what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and rotate the whole lutz. So when we're doing our lutz, you want to make sure that you really feel that edge pressure. If you look at a lot of slowed down videos of people doing double lutz or triple lutz or quad lutz, a lot of times their feet look like this right before they take off, and their toes are pointed together, and we call that pigeon toed. So like they look like this right before they're about to take off. And this is how you really know that they have that edge, because this foot is going to be able to flick all the way up into the air, and this is their picking foot that they're twisting to go up into the air with. So you want to be able to kind of, if you watch slow motion videos of your jump, you want to make sure that you look for this. So once we're here, and then you get into this position just like this, and then you're going to go all the way through and kick all the way through with your arm and your knee, and you want to make sure that you're really working on getting that pressure. So you want to feel it. Sometimes people will just go into their lutz and they'll feel it at first, and then they'll go like this going into it, and that's what's going to make it a flut, and you're going to have an inside edge, and you're going to get an edge call whenever you do that in competition, and you don't want that because it's going to take off points from your jump, which isn't good. So once we're here, you want to make sure that you really work hard on feeling that outside edge, and you can really tell because you'll feel it on like the inside of your ankle. You'll be able to feel when you're really pressing on that edge. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you guys. So I don't recommend doing your double lutz from complete standstill because it's really tough, especially for beginners. Even I can't do it, and I've had my double lutz for like many years now, and I just recommend taking a couple of steps because it's going to make it a lot easier, and it's also going to make it a lot easier for you to fall onto that edge and get that edge pressure that you want going up into your double lutz. So I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. So now once we are comfortable with doing our double lutz from slow speed and we're able to land it and we get it because it's pretty consistent, I recommend trying to add more speed going into it. This is when you can play with different entries, you can play with different moves going into it. So a lot of times when I go into my lutz, I do a cross in front into a mohawk, and then I cross over, and then I go into my lutz, and that really just helps me a lot going into it because it just gives me a timing, and it's not just glide, 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 because I've never been able to do the one where people do it in the corner, and I prefer doing mine on a straight edge. So I go here, I go cross in front, mohawk, cross over into my lutz, but you can do whatever you want. I've seen a lot of people go like outside mohawk here into their lutz, or you can just do whatever turns you feel comfortable with doing. You can do straight, just gliding backwards. You can do backward crossovers and just hold going into it. But there's many different things that you can play with. Play with getting a timing that you can feel for your pick and that you can feel every single time when you do the jump, which is going to make it a lot easier. And you're going to be able to feel the same jump every single time you do it. So I'm going to show you guys what my double lutz looks like with speed. Alright guys, so those are my tips and tricks on how to do a double lutz in figure skating. I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I also hope that this video helped you guys get your double lutz in skating. And if you already had a double lutz, I hope that this video was helpful to you guys in getting a better double lutz, or maybe work on getting a better deep edge on your lutz, because that's one of the things that most skaters really struggle with. When I first got my lutz, I had a very, very bad flutz. So if you have one, don't worry about it. It'll take some time. You have to work on it, work on that edge pressure, do a bunch of exercises where you feel this outside edge going up into that takeoff, because trust me, it works. I was eventually able to change my inside edge to an outside edge, and it makes a whole difference when you're getting scores back, when you're doing IGS, when you're getting different like scores, because you're not getting points taken off even if you land the jump like perfectly. So I just hope that this video was helpful for you guys, and if you guys have any requests for videos that you want me to do, leave those down below in the comments and I will be happy to do those for you guys. But I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next video. Love you guys. Bye.